So yeah, this tablet here is absolute garbage. This is easily the worst tablet that Chuwi has ever produced, the Chuwi Hi9, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So let's take a quick look at the specs for the Chuwi Hi9. This has a MTK 8173 processor, not too great, but still acceptable. It also has a 2560 by 1600 8.4-inch IPS LCD. And it also has 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigabytes of ROM, 5000 mAh battery. However, there are a lot of areas where this tablet actually does not come in very good. There's a lot of areas that are kind of subpar, and I'll tell you exactly what those are in this review. So first, let's start with the build quality here. It's plastic and you can hear it creaking. Let me bring it closer to my mic so you can actually hear it. Can you hear that? Hopefully you can hear that. But basically, if you twist it and turn it kind of like this, and it really detracts from this tablet, and it really makes it feel really cheap. And to be honest, the materials don't really help that much either. You have kind of a hard plastic on the back here, and it's glossy as well. Well, kind of half glossy, half matte. But nevertheless, this back part of the tablet actually picks up a lot of fingerprints as well. So it doesn't actually stay pristine and nice after you use it for a long time. The rest of the tablet's actually pretty normal. You have your 2 buttons here. You have your power button and your volume buttons. And here you have a micro USB, which sad that's not USB-C, but what can you do? Headphone jack, which is pretty rare, but you know, in tablets it's actually not that rare. And finally, a micro USB card slot as well. Let's talk about the bezels on the screen here. As you can see, there are some significant bezels on the screen, on the front of the tablet rather. And to be honest, the promotional pictures kind of showed a different picture, ironically. The side bezels on the promotional pictures were a lot slimmer than what you have on the screen over here. And the other thing as well is the top and the bottom bezels are actually not too small. So overall, you actually have quite a bit of bezel coming around all the screens. To be fair, bezels are kind of needed in larger devices like tablets so you can hold on to stuff. But I would have preferred smaller bezels because you can get away with smaller bezels without having to do stuff like edge rejection for your finger or stuff like that. So you know what, I really wish that Chuwi had made this tablet smaller than it could be, and yeah. Alright, so I want to talk about the screen on the Chuwi Hi9. The screen here is a 2560 by 1600 8.4-inch IPS LCD, and I have to say that this display actually looks pretty good. The colors are fairly accurate. They're not too saturated, to be honest. A lot of AMOLED displays are more saturated than this. And the other thing as well is that there are quite a few LCDs on phones that actually have a lot higher contrast, which makes those screens look better than what you have on the Chuwi Hi9. Nevertheless, this is still a good screen, and I really doubt that many people will find many issues with the screen here. And to be honest, 8.4 inches is perfect if you want to read comics and like manga. So I want to show you a little bit of manga over here, especially one that has color. It's perfect for reading because then you can just pretty much see everything, and the colors on the screen really make the manga pop out. And of course, you just have like to find a good manga app like what I have here, which is Manga Master, I think. But yeah, very good for reading comics and manga, and I highly recommend it for that. But there are other issues, so you know, don't pull the trigger just yet. The other thing to note is that the max brightness on the screen is actually pretty good. It's 300 nits or somewhere around there, which is actually good for indoor use, definitely. Outdoor use is a little bit tough to use for 300 nits. You need somewhere around 500 nits to use it effectively in sunlight. So this will be hard to see if you're in, you know, direct bright sunlight, but if you're in any other situation, this will be great to see. However, the minimum brightness on the screen here is like atrocious. For example, if you have a minimum brightness and you're in a super dark room, like think about this. I have 2 bright lights shining on me right now, and you can still see the screen pretty clearly. So if you're in a super dark environment, for example, if you're reading comics in your bed, this is gonna be so bright that it's gonna blind you. So that's one downside, and that's a software issue. So I'm pretty sure Chuwi can fix it. Chuwi is pretty good with software updates, but I have to say that small stuff like this, they don't really bother with fixing, so don't count on the minimum brightness being adjusted anytime. Now, the last thing I want to show you regarding the screen on the Chuwi Hi9 is the touchscreen. It's not very sensitive, and to be honest, most of the times people give tablets a pass for sensitivity, but I feel that Chuwi tablets, you know, some of them have had touch issues in the past, and this one has... It's not the most sensitive, but to be honest, like I've enabled the screen to show where the touch starts and stops. And you can see that sometimes as I'm swiping, it doesn't actually follow completely. And the white dot that's supposed to show where my touch is being triggered, it doesn't follow when I swipe or if I touch it too softly, which is kind of annoying sometimes. So that combined with what I'll talk about later, which is the software, actually makes this sometimes a rather frustrating experience, especially with the lack of super sensitivity, which you see in cell phones and, you know, high-end tablets, you don't really see, very high-end touch screens here. It's not very sensitive. So now let's talk about the speakers on the Chuwi Hi9. There's one backfiring speaker on the back, and to be honest, the speaker here isn't that great. There's obviously not a lot of bass. The mids and highs are average, and to be honest, the speakers here are mostly kind of tinny. Sometimes they can sound okay if you're listening just to like a drama where people are just talking. It'll sound fine in that situation, but if you're listening to, let's say, like a sword fight or a gunfight, you'll find that the speakers here are very tinny and they tend to echo a lot as well. So it's not a very good speaker, especially if you're thinking about consuming a lot of media on this device. Definitely think about that. I mean, obviously the output from the headphone jack is fine. It's just that these loudspeakers are not very good. So I'm going to show you something from Nintendo Direct. There's actually an event going on right now. So I'm going to let you listen to it with the mic very close to the speaker so you can hear what it sounds like.
Like an octoling. She wakes up on the platform of a dark subway station without her memories. Looks like some kind of shady underground test facility. In this massive subterranean world, there are 80 of these test facilities connected by a subway. You'll depart from the station with purpose. A variety of missions await Agent 8 and her talents. Expect new stories to unfold, shedding new light on beloved characters.
Alright, let's talk about battery life next. The Chuwi Hi9 here has a 5,000 mAh battery. Now combine that with the MTK8173, theoretically it should get okay battery life. And I have to say that the Chuwi Hi9 almost reached that standard. Battery life here is almost average. It's actually below average. I was able to get around 5 hours of screen on time on this tablet. Now, 5 hours of screen on time, depending on what size the battery is, isn't actually too bad. But considering that this has a 5,000 mAh battery, that's actually not too small. Most smaller tablets that get 5 hours have like a 4,000 mAh battery and a less power efficient processor. But here, this has a 5,000 and a MTK8173. And this tablet ran out of juice with 5 hours of, let's say, YouTube, Chrome, Reddit, as well as reading manga. So all of those things aren't too heavy. They're definitely not as heavy as playing games. So if you're playing games, you're going to experience even shorter battery life on the Chuwi Hi9 as well. And one of the culprits for the battery life on the Chuwi Hi9 being so low is because this tablet actually heats up pretty easily. And I'll talk about that later, how the tablet heats up during gaming. But even during normal stuff, the tablet actually warms up a little bit, and that does have an impact on battery life as well. So battery life here is not great. 5 hours, if that's good enough for you, that's great. But for most people, it's probably not. 5 hours is just not enough to go through a whole day, at least 7 or 8 hours. So here we have stock Android 7.1 on the tablet. And this is something Chuwi always does. They always have stock Android, and I'm very appreciative of Chuwi that they haven't really added any skins or crap on top of the device. Here we do have ES File Explorer, which does have ads from now and again, but I just uninstalled it or just ignore them for most of the time. Now, if you recall during the touch section, I was mentioning how the touch screen isn't that great. Well, you combine that with the MTK8173 and the super high resolution, and you can see that sometimes the tablet lags a little bit, or the touchscreen just doesn't initiate, which is kind of annoying. So you don't really see a response all the time, which can be kind of annoying. That being said, navigating through the UI can be a little bit choppy as well, because of the touchscreen as well as the very high resolution and the not too powerful device. It's not as fast as what you find on like a faster tablet, but it's barely okay. So let's talk about launching apps on this device over here. Launching apps here doesn't actually take too long. Sometimes the apps can take a tiny bit longer to launch, but most of the time they're pretty okay. And once you load them into RAM, launching apps actually takes pretty fast as well, and it's pretty much instant. And with 4 GB of RAM, you can pretty much do anything you want on this tablet as well. Now for gaming, this tablet can actually play most of the intense games. You do have to bump down the settings if you want, remotely playable frame rates on this 2560 by 1600 screen. But the problem I have again is with the touch. It's not sensitive enough, so sometimes if you want to play like a first-person shooter, those twitch reflexes, you do need the screen to respond when you touch it. Sometimes it doesn't, which can get annoying, especially for the Chuwi Hi9. So again, gaming does work, but the touchscreen again can be a deal breaker as well. The tablet does get pretty hot if you're playing a intense game as well. So just be aware of that if you are considering this as a gaming tablet. So the worst part of this tablet here is the Wi-Fi. And this is probably going to be the deal breaker for most of you guys watching this video. If I'm 10 feet away from the router, which I am right now, the speeds are pretty much okay. Once you're 15, 20 feet away, and you have like a wall or a floor between you and the tablet, then the speeds get cut in half. I mean, it's not as simplistic as that, but you know, it's pretty close. The speeds get cut in half. And if you are, let's say 30 feet away, 35 feet away, and you're 2 floors above the router, then your speeds just drop to 0. And that is not simplistic, it actually happens, right? I'm in my top floor, I'm trying to do something with this tablet, and it just doesn't respond because, the Wi-Fi signal just, cuts out. It says there's Wi-Fi signal, but nothing actually goes through, which is really, really annoying. And of course, the cameras on the front and the back, they aren't that great, but they'll do the job if you want some basic webcams. Just don't think of, taking wedding photos with this tablet because, yeah, you're not gonna get any good photos with this tablet. So again, there's lots of issues with this tablet over here. The biggest issue for me would be the Wi-Fi, where it pretty much cuts out completely at 30 feet, which is pretty rare in many of the phones and tablets I test. The second biggest issue with this would be the touch sensitivity. It's not very sensitive, and it affects your day-to-day use and affects your gaming as well. So if you're thinking about that for a gaming tablet, just think about the touch sensitivity aspect, if you can handle that or not. This tablet does get pretty hot when you're playing games, and the battery optimization is not that great, so you don't get a lot of battery life as well. And the high resolution combined with the not that powerful processor makes this a little bit of a choppy experience, and you combine that again with the touch sensitivity, and it's really not that great either. So this tablet was released at $250. Now, that's an insane price because $250, that costs a lot for a tablet. Even for a good tablet like a Mi Pad 3, which I should have somewhere around, no I don't have it here. Mi Pad 3, Lenovo P8, I think they were launched at $250 or $300. That's a lot for a tablet. Now this, for $250, absolutely no way. I would rather eat poop. However, the regular street price for the Chuwi Hi9 is around $200 to $225. Even at that price is absolutely not worth it. Lots of other tablets at $200 that are way better than this. Even $100 tablets are better than this as well. For example, you can get the Chuwi Hi8 Air, which is better than this. No reason getting this at all. If this goes down to like $130, I still don't recommend this. I still recommend you get the Chuwi Hi8, Chuwi Hi8 Air. Those might be a little bit slower, but the overall experience is a lot better than what you have on the Chuwi Hi9. So you know what? Hopefully Chuwi does a better job next time with their tablets. I think they are releasing a new Chuwi Hi9, 10-inch tablet, which hopefully will be a better product than this. But yeah, stay away from this. This is crap. If you want more tablet recommendations, check out the videos up above or down below. And I'll see you guys in the next one.